Okay. Well, welcome everybody. This is Career Lab Wednesday. I am George Miller, and thank you, Jane. We are up and live now on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and had a really cool Career Lab last Wednesday talking about emotional intelligence, how to use emotions in sometimes in finding your purpose, how to orient towards what your feelings are so that it's like, oh, that feels right, or oh, that doesn't feel right. That kind of thing. We were digging in on that. And then there's also, how to bring in emotional intelligence into the relationships in your work. If we're talking with a potential client, getting to know their concerns. Oftentimes, I found that clients don't always know, what the real issues are. They have so many things going on all at the same time. And sometimes just being in tune with what I'm feeling and helping them sort through what they're feeling can help them identify kind of what their biggest concerns are, what they need to handle the most, what by handling, they'll clear up more mental space so that they can focus on knocking out a bunch of small tasks. So there's all kinds of ways that emotional intelligence plays out in your career, whether, again, it's from identifying what's really important to you as an individual, or if it has to do with how you're communicating with your coworkers, with your boss, or with your clients. So that's the overarching topic. I want to say for everybody, though, that I invite any career-related questions, anything that's on your mind, anything on your heart. I invite those questions. If you're working on your resume and interviewing, I love helping people with that. If you're working on management issues, if you're working on overall strategy in your company, all questions are free game here. So no question too small, no question too big. There's a few ways that you can engage. I love it when you jump in directly on Zoom. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube and you don't see the Zoom link and you want to jump in, just message me there. You can always type your questions into the comment section on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and Jane will get those questions over to me. If you can't jump in on Zoom, I'll do my best to answer your questions there. But if you can, jump in here, and I love to engage with you. And well, with that, I'll give a reminder of how to engage here in a little bit, but we got a couple people on Zoom. Good to have you. Welcome. I would love to hear from both of you and hear what you'd like from today. How can I help you? Eric, what do you got going on?
Yeah, I guess one thing that I've been thinking about is thoughts on getting your foot in the door for, when you're applying for roles. And, I wouldn't say maybe non-traditional per se, but maybe more out of the box ways versus say, you're looking on LinkedIn or you go to a company's website, you type in your keywords, finance, supply chain, whatever, you bring up the posting, you find it, you apply it, all that other fun stuff. What are some other ways, especially if it's a case where maybe you've applied for a few roles at a certain company that you're really interested in, but you've not had any success getting even initial interviews with them. I know I've heard some cases where people have described reaching out to a person who potentially would be the hiring manager for the role and emailing them saying, you'd love to learn more about a project they're working on or something or other, that kind of thing. But just looking for kind of more out of the box ways to get your foot in the door, at least for interviews with the company, especially if it's a case where you send in applications, but you've not had even initial screenings and interviews, let alone.
This is a good question here. Is this Are you able, do you have a specific company?
I do have one in mind. It's certainly not a medical manufacturer that's located in the Midwest, specifically in the Mitten State.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a place where they're in a location that I've worked before, really like the area. It's an industry that I think is both interesting, and I think it's going to be, long-term viable, because people are always going to be injured and you're always going to need medical devices of sorts. They have a really strong reputation in supply chain and really just globally as well. So it checks a lot of the boxes for what I'm looking for, but I've not heard, I've put in applications,
Mm-hmm.
but I've,
So they are
never,
high, so they're hiring.
yeah, no, they're hiring. It's just, I never seem to hear back, not even like an HR screen. It's
Okay.
usually I submit it to the black hole that
How
is
many,
Workday.
so there's a lot of people applying for these positions that are open.
I would imagine so, yes.
Okay, so is there a way that you can, is this a location that you can go to?
I can. It's a bit of a drive. Uh, it's not something where I could just like pop in,
Okay.
you know, um, on like a weeknight or something. I would have to take at least one day off if I wanted to like drive to this location. So
Um, do they ever have any kind of events, networking events, that you could go to?
I don't believe so. I've not. I'd have to maybe check their LinkedIn page to see if they ever post anything, but I've not ever heard of any like networking events or anything. But I appreciate where you're going there. I do think that'll be something maybe to keep an eye out for if they do ever do something like that.
And have you reached out through LinkedIn to anybody who's working there?
I have not. No.
Okay, that you might remember when Drew Allison was on here, um, and he was sharing about that process where when he's interested in a company, he would reach out on LinkedIn, and I think I forget the numbers he said, but it was something like 50 to 100 reach outs. He would get 3 to 5 responses.
Right. Right.
So that's just a numbers game. If you use LinkedIn, you'd send a quick message, something no longer than, I don't know, 3 sentences. And if somebody just happens to be looking at their LinkedIn profile and be like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, I'd like to make this connection right now. I could see a possible way to introduce Eric. That, you could do that. It doesn't take you a long time to do that, but you just have to confront the fact that most people aren't going to get back to you.
Yeah. I guess what would you recommend putting in like an intro message? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to write an essay, of course, like you mentioned, but it's just something like, hey, we'd love to learn more about company X. And I guess,
I'd go focus on them. I'm
yeah,
interested in company X. Would love to hear about your experience if you're open to a phone call or
I
open,
got you. Okay.
something like that. So you're
Yeah, yeah,
engaging them and their experience.
right. Nope. I see where you're going. Yeah, I could definitely do that. And yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That you send out bajillion in mails, and you're probably get a handful of replies at best. So, but
Totally.
no,
And
I can
and if
go
you
ahead.
hit anybody up in HR or who's just in that process there, I mean, what it does is it highlights you as somebody who takes initiative, somebody who's going to make their job easier. And, there's certainly not this isn't going to cause you any harm. You will not, there's only benefits from doing this.
Right. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then, I can probably be good to also see if there's any alumni from my undergrad. That would probably also be, adds that extra, I'm trying to think of a good phrase, I guess, connecting point or do that. But yeah, I think I'll try that approach. I'll admit, you know me, I'm not exactly the person to just cold email people, but I think doing that, especially for people who work there and for my undergrad, kind of do basically that cold, message approach where, I'm reaching out to you about company, would love to hear your experiences about it. If you have time for a quick chat, you'll let me know and I can put some time on the calendar, whatever, something like that. I'd work at the phrasing, but yeah, I definitely think I'll try that and see if that goes anywhere.
Cool. And I just, so, in Chicago, there's a few hubs where events and talks are always happening. Like with tech, there's 1871. And so, there's always people doing presentations about doing their pitches to VCs and things.
Right.
And I don't know if there's anything like that. And you're talking about the medical field and different medical devices and things. Is that
right? That's what this company does.
So
for their products.
my hunch is that there's got to be some kind of pitches going on with things where biotech startups or I don't know the field, but I bet that's going on somewhere there. And you probably, if you're not nearby, you'll have to make a drive of it. But look for that stuff too, because you show up there and you're interested in getting into there, you start meeting some people, and just asking people what they're working on. Remember that you're serving them by getting to know them and their challenges.
Right.
And that stuff. And you don't have to, it's going to be a slow process for you, but just this networking like that is really a beneficial thing to be doing.
Right. And, I'm fortunate in the case where, I'm currently employed. It's not like, as far as I'm aware, my job's going to go anywhere anytime soon. So I have a bit of the luxury of time to play with. So.
Okay. And at your current company, are you are you continuing to share about your desires to develop as a leader and learn and grow?
I have. I'll be honest, it's definitely been a bit discouraging. I kind of, after striking out the last couple of internal roles that I had applied to. So, I've been trying to keep my chin up, but it's definitely a bit more challenging to keep myself motivated than it was, a few months ago, earlier this year.
Is it just that there's not the opportunity, or what's going on with that?
I think it's just been, so with the first one I applied for, they brought in somebody who had prior experience in the role, or at least it looked to be. They didn't have a lot on their LinkedIn profile, but they at least had a master's. And then this other role, they brought in somebody who they felt had better communication skills, which I didn't realize was that much of a concern until that feedback was given to me. Because the hiring manager, in so many words, basically told me that they felt I could do the job. It's just the communication skills that led them to go with a different person who did not have any experience doing this specific function either. So it wasn't like a case with the first role where they brought in somebody who had adjacent experience, so to speak.
Okay.
And then otherwise, really, it's a very flat hierarchy. So there's, unless something happens to open up, there's not really going to be a lot available.
Okay. So overall, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of growth opportunities there. At least you did get feedback about that. So are you interested in continued education?
I've thought about doing like an MBA just because I'm getting to the point where maybe I do get like that next manager role, to the point where I imagine a lot of the job postings I'd be looking at would be like MBA strongly preferred, MBA highly preferred, blah 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 blah. But I'm not sure, just because my impression with MBA programs is more for folks who want to change their career functions, whereas I don't really want to change out of supply chain. I enjoy supply chain and rather stay in that. So I'm not sure if it would really be the right fit for me. And most of the time, that's the masters they're looking for, not necessarily say a master's to supply chain or whatever.
I imagine that for you to advance, perhaps then the social and emotional intelligence, or the soft skills and your communication skills, are going to become increasingly important.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Well, let's set up a time to talk about that. There is the organization I've worked with, we offer trainings in that, and there might be something that would be a good fit.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's look at that. And I mean, in a lot of ways, just higher education is, you're young, and it's only going to help you in the long run. We value degrees and having
right
after your name. It just puts you into those categories, into your resume will make it through more things. So, and if maybe an MBA isn't what really would inspire you, but maybe be thinking about what do you really want to learn more about? And how could that play into the supply chain? And maybe have some conversations about that as you're networking.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it is, it's very much a point where I wouldn't get the program or do the MBA without I do get that checkbox, right? Because like you said, it's one of those things where they're asking for it. They're probably going to do a quick check to make sure it's a legit program and not some random degree mill. But otherwise, they're not going to be super, I wouldn't say diligent, but at least gets me through the ATS.
Yeah.
So that has been one thing that would probably drive me to get it anyway, either like a normal MBA or potentially even, depending on if I decide to pursue it, maybe like an executive MBA, depending on where I'm at with my career. I know it's usually more higher level management folks, so we kind of see. But Yeah, I think it would be kind of one of those options where I may not use it as intended, but it would be something I'd kind of be forced to get to at least check that box.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. Okay, well, cool. Well, you got several things to do,
Yeah.
to take action on between now and next week. So this is good. Thank you very much for your questions and engaging. We've got Robin online is she's got a couple of suggestions. For one thing, she says don't start the intro email with hey. Yeah, I think I probably agree with that. Hi, or being more formal than hey. And also, what
Yeah.
about a significant program or at least a course that offers what you need, particularly around social communication? Yeah. So cool. So yeah, and set up a 15-minute call with me, Eric. I'd like to talk with you about some of what the organization I work with, what we're doing, and see if that might be a fit. All right, sweet. Thank you so much, Eric. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Love it when you jump in on Zoom and I can talk with you directly. If you can't, if you're just viewing in through LinkedIn Live or YouTube, go ahead and enter any comments or suggestions into the comment section. You can put your questions in there. I'm inviting all career-related questions, from things around your purpose. Are you really happy with what you're doing? To how do I network? Like what Eric's bringing in here. What are some out-of-the-box ways to make connections into companies? Or questions about your resume or interviewing skills. So it's all fair game. Looks like we've got somebody who's wanting some coaching. Are you able to come off mute and let us know what you're wanting support with?
Is that for me, Allison?
Allison, okay, great. Hey,
Hey,
great to hear from you. What's
always
happening?
great to hear from you. So, for context for people, I left my old tech job in April and have been coming on these calls most weeks since, and they've been really cool to see every week. So, thanks for doing this. I have been exploring what I want to do and learning AI and all this wonderful self-development stuff, and have come across several interviews or processes of maybe getting a job that didn't seem right for various reasons, or they did a hiring freeze, or they already had someone in the line or something like that. So it's been a frustrating up and down process, but I was thinking I had this idea for a real estate investor app in 2015, and that's how I got into tech, because I wanted to build that app. I have not seen this concept get adopted widely by the market, and I'm thinking it may be a really good ad for something like Redfin or Zillow or some bigger real estate app. I don't see them actively trying to pursue something like my idea, but I'm wondering if I might be able to find a more targeted job, normal job that I would love by bringing my idea internally into one of these companies, rather than just finding some job opening and hoping to get some kind of normal interview for something that they already know how to adopt.
Well, what have you tried so far?
Very little. I don't even know what this process is called. I would love to look up online best practices for this, but I don't know what to say. Like best practices for bringing your idea internally in a company and getting hired. It's quite long. Is this, I'm an external entrepreneurial hire? Advice? I don't know.
The first thing that comes up for me is the concern is, if you're coming in with that is, let's say I'm working at a company and somebody's reaching out to me because they think they have an idea that would really fit well with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're now putting yourself in a sales position, selling yourself and an idea to me.
Yeah.
And presumably a lot of people are doing that. What makes what is so special about this idea?
I'm not sure how to answer that best because I don't know the perspective that they would have, and that's mainly my struggle with this. I think that it could fit well, but I'm an outside, very biased, uneducated for their thinking source. And it seems more efficient than me building a company, hoping that I can get funding and hire devs and build a product and do legal and finance and all these things around starting a company, and then hoping that they buy it one day. That's going to cost them more money. It's going to cost me more time and process and risk. I just want to say, hey, I have this thing. I could do it internally for you guys. What do you think? Can you hire me and I'll build a team and get this done and expand your business?
Have you said what you just said the way you said that?
I don't know who to say it to.
Okay. Because that was quick and easy.
Okay. That's great. It didn't feel that quick to me, but maybe that's just what I need to say is a few sentences rather than.
That sounded like you said one long sentence or two sentences. That was clear. Is I think this is a good fit for the company. I'm interested in being hired to, build this out internally.
Okay.
And who you would talk to about that would be the decision makers. You'd probably want to get to the VP. You'll have to go through, whatever gatekeepers to get to that conversation.
Yeah.
Now are you still in SF?
I am in Houston. I'm very open to moving back to the Bay Area, but I moved to Houston during the pandemic from SF.
Okay. Well, no. So there's events and things that you can go to where you can start having these conversations, because this isn't going to be. You can certainly reach out to a ton of people on LinkedIn, and just that quickly and say, here's my idea. If you're interested, if you think this might be a fit, let's set up a time to talk. I mean, you could send out hundreds of those and maybe get a few responses.
Yeah.
You may have been on when Eric and I were talking and just about that. Drew Allison was sharing that when he reached out to 50 to 100 people to get 3 to 5 responses. Of those 3 to 5 responses, 1 or 2 meetings might actually get set up. So it doesn't have to take you a lot of time to do it, but you'll just have to send out a lot of messages and mostly be rejected because most people won't follow up.
Yeah.
But if you get somebody at the right time, it could turn to something. So there's that approach to use. I mean, so you are now you have a sales job, which is selling yourself in this idea.
Yeah.
So you networking, having a goal of people that you're going to talk to, identifying the people that you want to talk to, and going after it. Now, and the cool thing about this though too is that even if the activity that you do to sell this idea and yourself, even if it doesn't lead to exactly what you think it might to, just because you're doing the activity and making all those connections, it'll lead you to something.
Yeah. That's why I feel like it's worth it, even though it might not arrive at that we build this exact feature set. Because
so now, how are you with asking questions of interviewing people? How good are you at interviewing people?
decent, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, because that you're going to be interviewing, asking about what's going on in the companies that they are struggling with, where do they need support. So it's to be most effective as a salesperson, is going to be to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think I'm better at asking questions and trying to get to a real why than I am in whatever sales traditionally feels like. I judge myself as less good at, oh, maybe I should say it this way so it arrives in their mind like this and gets them excited. And then I'll say this thing, which will then get them here.
Yeah.
I'm not that great, but I am good at getting to the core reasons of things.
That's great. Well, that's, I think, more effective anyway. So cool. So you're going to be doing a lot of interviewing people. There's something else that's sticking out for me is, are you doing any consulting work?
I am doing one consulting thing right now, which is keeping me on the positive side of income, which is good. I don't know how long it's going to last. We'll see this month if we continue the project. It's not related to real estate. It is related to tech, and it's doing exactly what I do in tech. So that's nice. Yeah, but it's not something that will get my name known in the real estate space more.
Is there any kind of thanks, Eric. Is there any kind of consulting that you can do in the real estate space?
I don't know, probably, but then I'd have to find that. And I feel like finding that would, if it doesn't come from this process, finding it would take me away from this process.
Okay. Cool.
I can write articles and things like that. I have a long list of stuff I've wanted to write. Maybe I can choose some real estate related stuff if there is an idea I've already had for that.
Okay.
I do want to be more of a name of product design and product thinking in the internet world.
Okay.
That'll take some time to build up, but I think it'll be long-term worth it for me. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm happy to hear the encouragement around reaching out a lot, and it'll be mostly rejection and be a lot of interviewing. What I wonder about is if I do get to some of the decision makers and they say, well, how many people have you told this idea to? And then I say like hundreds. And they're like, oh, well, we only want ideas that are not already known, or something like that, where I've in the process destroyed the likelihood of it finally getting done when I'm there.
Huh.
Like maybe I'll talk to Redfin and they'll say, oh yeah, we're already working on that. That's a cool idea. We don't have any more hiring budget, but thanks for validating our idea. And then I talked to Zillow and then they want to do it. But then I said, oh, Redfin's working on it now. And they're like, ah, well, now that is less interesting to us. I don't know.
That's my first gut response to that is that to implement what I imagine, like what it would take to implement what you're describing and to do, that if somebody's going to do it, they're going to do it. And if they're not, that the fact that somebody else is doing it wouldn't mean that much.
Okay.
That's my gut on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But usually it's like just the amount of work that goes into a project. It's like if it's a good idea and is going to change things positively for one company, I suspect the other company would be like, yeah, we got to get into that space. Otherwise it will make us less relevant.
Yeah. And this is the
I
standard
think
startup
it'll
question.
tend to go that way more than, oh, one company's doing it, let's not even try.
Yeah. That's fair. And
But
then
I don't know the specifics, but
yeah, I think this is the standard startup, like, oh, I shouldn't tell people about my idea. They might take it, but also how do I learn if it's a good idea or not? Yeah.
the amount of work that it takes to pull off this kind of thing is, I mean, so much of the battle is just getting the pieces aligned for it.
Yeah.
I've worked with people who have started up an independent thing where they had to get things patented, etc. And most of the time, what it takes to implement an idea, like no one's going to steal an idea. That it happens, but I don't know. I think you'd have to talk to probably more people about that, and people that you really trust, and maybe have a conversation with a lawyer about it.
Right. Probably the people, the reward of talking about this so much is higher than the risk. And it may, as you said, even arrive at there's some other kind of collaboration that we do, and that's good too. And that came out of telling people and a lot of networking. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, the cost of not taking action on a good idea and connecting around a good idea is way higher. I don't know. I just saw Oppenheimer, and obviously during that time around the giant bomb that we're trying not to have other countries get into, but I doubt it's that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Alice,
this,
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, you go.
What I've been doing since losing the job in April has been more passive in letting jobs come to me and applying to just kind of what sounds like my skill set. And I'm not getting very excited about the products. And in some cases, the team structure sounds like it'll be more of what just happened to me in the last job. And that was not good in the end. So I'm hoping that by coming with something that I already care about and love in an industry that I care about and love will lead to some kind of opportunity that's more fitting and likely to be good all around.
I totally, if you're coming to me with an idea that you're excited about and you're showing initiative, you already have my attention more than a lot of people. The tricky thing there is really staying in rapport and not moving towards superiority in that interaction. But being passionate about something and showing that enthusiasm, that's wonderful.
Okay.
But really focus on, and remind me, what's your personality style?
D.
Do you know with the CARE, the cooperator, analyzer, regulator, energizer?
Regulator.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so you're driving for results. If you're talking to a cooperator like myself, I might feel hurt. So just keep that in mind as you're driving for results, is that to really value the relationship that you're forming with the individual or the group of people that you're talking to.
It's a good reminder, a lot. You may feel hurt if what?
Oh, like if somebody's talking to me about their idea and they just want a result, like I'll feel hurt, like I'm not valued as a human being. Cause like this is all unconscious for me, except that I've studied myself on it and I can bring it to consciousness. But for a lot of cooperators, which is a large percentage of the population, will feel hurt if it's only about the idea, and it's like, oh, now here I am, my job is just to introduce Allison to whoever, just so that like this idea can happen. Like, yeah. If you're talking to a regulator, then you're great, because it's like, hey, these are the results this brings. Let's make it happen. Awesome, wham bam. That's that language. But if you're talking to a cooperator, then it's going to be more about the benefits that this will have for the team. You know, when you're talking to a cooperator, kind of making sure that you're smiling some and like making eye contact and talking about how it's really like kind of socially oriented. If you're talking to an analyzer, then it's going to be all just data, and they're going to ask a lot of questions, and then you're going to ask them questions. When you answered their questions, then you're going to follow up with a question for them. And analyzers are the slowest to make decisions, and they'll always make them on their own time. And you just got to keep giving them more information.
Okay.
And never try to sell an analyzer. They're offended by that.
Right. If it's salesy, they'll just think you're avoiding the truth and the facts.
Yep. Regulators, it's just, what's the result? Can you deliver on that? Great, let's move.
Yeah.
And then the energizer is the vision of what's possible with it. How fun, exciting this is. Oh, this would be so cool if we were able to do this.
Yeah. And I do have some energizer in me about this idea.
Yeah. I figured it. So you're probably regulator energizer.
Yeah.
So a lot of gatekeepers are going to be cooperators. And so there's just the making friends with and getting to know and asking them the question of, well, what's it like at the company right now? You know, how's the team doing? And then you're collecting data about how what's your idea, how that would play out there.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, as primarily a regulator, my experience in the last company has shown me how much that stuff matters to be able to get to the bottom line.
Yeah. And it's got to be so frustrating for you as a regulator, because you just want to get there, but you're learning that it'll end up taking less time if I invest the time up front to spend with the niceties, the social things.
You got it. You see me. I'm like, I want a job. Can I do this? Yes, no.
Right. But this, I love the research on this, Allison. So I'll share it again. I've probably shared it like 100 times here, but back when global corporations could first happen, because the internet was at a speed that that was a viable thing, and these a couple companies set up a project where they're going to put their best people on it. They were just going to do everything through email. These are very competent individuals that they're putting on this project, and they kick it off and it just fails, doesn't work at all. And they spent 12 years researching why can't we just take action on things that we all know how to do. And they found that it's because of emotional intelligence. They worked with Daniel Goleman on it, the guy who coined that term. And every person needs a template of who another person is in order for me to make a decision. Even if I know the right answer, if I can't picture who is involved in this, who this decision is affecting, this kind of thing, I end up getting distracted and just ultimately not making the decision. So they found that in order for these global projects to work best is to take the key leaders, fly them into, they like Iceland because it's the same flight time for everybody, fly them into Iceland, bring their families if possible, and they're not allowed to talk about business. They have to get to know each other. And then over the next few years, everybody there can remember who they're emailing, and it has importance to it. So it really is a thing just wired into us as humans.
Yeah.
And when you're connecting with cooperators and getting that, when a cooperator likes you, we are so happy to introduce you to people. Like, I get high on making introductions. I love it. And I will work for you just because I like it. It just makes my day to be like, oh, cool, I connected Allison with so and so, and oh, that's awesome. That's so perfect. Like, the way that you like getting results, I like making connections.
Hmm. I actually think one of my newest best friends is that way, and that explains a lot of our plans together lately.
I
Yeah.
remember one time we were getting ready to go to a speaking event, and it was a new crew of people, and we're all standing there. Everything's packed, we're ready to go, and we're just standing there like smiling at each other. And I realized, oh my God, we're all cooperators. And none of us are gonna go to the cab. And I was like, okay, we need to go to the cab now. And everyone was like, okay, great. But I was like, God, we probably could have stood there for like 10 minutes and nobody would have said anything.
That's really funny.
So we really need each other.
That makes a lot of sense. And then I imagine myself showing up to that and seeing everyone look around and asking, like, what's going on? Can we go? Let's go.
Yeah. And we'd be like, thank God Allison's here. Now we move.
Oh, that's funny. That
Oh,
makes a lot of sense, George. Okay, so about who to reach out to. I imagine that I would learn good things about where the company is and what their priorities are and all that by first reaching out to people who are not the decision maker.
yeah.
And then I can get ready with actual context to say, hey, I've done the research, decision maker. Here's what I've learned about where things are. Is this correct? And if so, let's talk.
Yes. And you're gonna have somebody from one of those first conversations be the one who introduces you, because you've asked questions and you've helped them think through the problems at the company, and they're like, oh man, this is an issue. This bugs me about working here. And wait a minute. So I'm talking to Allison and she's asking these really insightful questions. And oh, she has something that might resolve this. Like, oh my gosh, I would love to make this in. Okay, so and so has to talk to Allison. And so then you're getting a warm introduction from somebody who wants to see the change happening there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's impactful. I want to research more online about people who've done this strategic way of getting a job. I don't know how to phrase it to get people's suggestions.
Well, what it sounds like to me is that it's almost like a consulting thing. Like, you're coming on for the project of moving the company from A to B. And if that works, then depending on what it is we're talking about, you're staying on then to continue to facilitate whatever the process is that you're implementing. So I imagine it wouldn't be a just straight up Allison, you're hired. Maybe it would be, who knows, but that would be, you'd get into that conversation after the first introductions.
Yeah.
It would be, what makes sense for the company, what makes sense for Allison.
Yeah. And then if it's consulting, then this is somewhat staying on the side of entrepreneurial for me. And then I imagine it would be useful for me to maybe create a deck that describes the problem, shows some feedback I've gathered, shows the space, blah, 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 like a pitch of this idea, rather than just, oh, hey, anyone want to work on this here? Let's talk.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you could, however your process is, that helps you. If working on a deck now helps you start thinking it through, great. But that's not an excuse to not connect. You have to start connecting with people. That's number one. But if also working on a deck while you're doing that helps you, then do it. But I don't think working on a deck right now is essential.
Okay.
The other thing that I was just thinking is, you know, they might bring you on because they don't want you going and talking to other people about it. Like they're maybe non-compete. That might be the part of the reason they'd hire you.
Yeah. I love that. Just great. I think my vision is something like, hey, everyone, this is Allison. She's going to lead this team to implement this really cool new effort that's going to expand our business. Yay, our company's doing this now. Yeah, that's if you have a solution that helps expand the business and makes things easier in the company. Now, I imagine there's going to be some pushback because change in any system is always resisted. Yeah. And so if the people in the company are going to have to learn new things, do something a different way, that's then where, you know, the soft skills are so important, of helping people think through and say, okay, yes, it's worth it for me to invest my time and energy to do things differently. Work through the resentments of, geez, I was trained this way, now I have to be trained this way. Mm-hmm. And every single individual is going to have a different kind of response to anything new. Yeah, if they've been hoping for change already, they'll maybe hope that they can get that through this, or the other way around. Yeah. And then if this does work, maybe a cool outcome of it, other than actually doing the project, could be that I can make a TED Talk or some kind of thing that shows that this is a way that people can creatively get jobs in tough markets. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that, I was going to say, as the bind that I would see if you are hired on and in a way to have you in a non-compete is, that's sweet at first, but in as few as 3 years, you might be sick of it. Yeah. And so, you know, value yourself in the process a great deal. You know, you're the asset, you're the gift. Hard to remember when I just want stability, but you are right. I know that is a hard come from. And that's why, you know, while you're in this current project, really take advantage of that, because it's only going to get harder if you're currently in a project. I know. That's a really amazing part-time, exactly on target gift that I'm in right now. Okay. Thanks for all of that, George. You bet, Allison. Thank you for your questions and for doing what you're doing. And you've got your marching orders, and you are gonna go get some results. This is true. Some results. We'll see what they are. Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about it, Allison. Thanks. You bet. Well, take care. We are coming up here. We're wrapping up, but I see Andrea, I don't know how to say your name. Is there anything that I can help you with in the last minutes?
I missed most of this, and basically, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have these job themed things on Wednesdays around noon Central. So I was on something else. I was on one with a different organization with the recruiter who submitted me to a role yesterday, and it was like kind of one of their hot jobs that they brought up. So that was kind of cool, but I haven't heard anything yet because it hasn't even been a day. So I do have an interview request for with a company, but it's very low pay compared to what I was like making before the pandemic. It's like $7 an hour less than what I was making 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I mean, I have an interview request for that. I had an interview like a few weeks ago, and then the people I interviewed with, like their manager was out of town for like in Paris or something. And hadn't heard anything. So I reached back out to that recruiter this morning to see if they had heard anything, because I realized it's been over 2 weeks now since that interview. I had a writing test for an interview, again with a fully remote, oh, actually, no, hybrid in Chicago, but they're also based in Canada. So I had a writing test. I did that yesterday. Currently multitasking with texting a recruiter about a new role that just came in my inbox like a little over an hour ago. So I mean, I've just, I don't know. I know there's only a few people here, but
No, you're
so I've been
rocking.
out of,
So you're doing.
I'm trying. I mean, I've been out of work for 6 months now, a little over 6 months. So it's been a little bit difficult. I mean, I have unemployment, doesn't cover my monthly bills. I try to work at least like one event a week if I can, or do it like a focus group or something that can get me like a gift card where I don't have to report it to unemployment. So, I think I'm doing all the right things. And I guess I just wanted to, I mean, I'm hoping the best for my situation. And I just came on like 10 minutes ago. So that's all I heard of the whole hour. But I just want to say, like, but I felt like there was a job market kind of a drought. And like
there is, it's
but
hard.
I just want to say, but since right after the 4th of July, I've seen things pick up like so much more. So I don't know if it's like companies. Yeah. So I don't know if it's companies like having different like fiscal years and things like, I know sometimes, July 1 is the new fiscal year for some companies, and that might help like budgets and their staffing and things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there on a positive note.
That's great to hear.
So that's just what I've been seeing personally, and I'm selling my Lollapalooza tickets, and hopefully I can, that I mean, I hate to be a bad person, but I mean, I got to make money, so you got to do what you got to do.
What if there's something that you have a question about, or something, what's on your heart around your career?
I just like to, I mean, I'm definitely looking for hopefully like a hybrid job in Chicago. I live downtown, so like Streeterville, Gold Coast area, and I don't want to have to go hybrid to the suburbs. There's enough jobs here. Whereas also remote, like I live by myself, I have a fish. I mean, I'd like to have some social interaction in person. So definitely looking for an in-person role.
What kind of thing are you looking for?
Basically communications consulting, mostly internal comms with the focus on employee benefits and HR.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'm putting myself, I mean, and just my other advice to anyone who's looking is what a lot of what I did during the pandemic. And I don't know if this is good advice or bad advice, but it helped me at least land some contract jobs, is connecting with recruiters. And then they have even if it's outdated, they're like, oh, your last job was in 2020 or 2021. I'm like, no. But at least they have you like in their repertoire, I guess Rolodex, digital Rolodex, right? So they can, if there is a role that comes up, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember you. And I try to go to like focused networking events, not just like those general ones, but ones that are focused on my career and my industry, I guess, or just ones that I know will have influential people there and make connections. Like I did meet someone who owns a recruiter who owns an agency. A couple of weeks ago, I was volunteering at an event.
Andrea,
so-
I just saw the time. I actually have to go. I got a session coming in. But
Oh,
thanks for
okay,
jumping
yeah.
in.
And then, yeah, the last thing I wanted
Take
to
care.
share, just real
I got
quick.
I got to end it because